songs I most enjoyed putting together the arrangement for was Row Jimmy. I decided to take some liberties with this one and really put a little bit more of my own spin on it. A lot of what really makes the song special is the lyrics and the vocals, and with all of those repeated verses without hearing the words and the story unfold, I thought that I needed to bring something else to it if I was going to make the instrumental version of it work. I was trying to draw from two forms of music that are a little bit related to each other and that I've been really into. One of those being minimalism, and one of them being African mbira music, or thumb pianos. Like these things. So with minimalism, there's a lot of repeated patterns that evolve slowly over time, and sometimes they go in and out of sync or in and out of phase with each other and form new harmonies and new patterns as they kind of grow apart and then come back into phase with each other. And so even though in minimalism we're working with much longer time scales and much smaller changes over that really long timeline, it's the same kind of idea. So in this case, I took a pattern in my right hand that's 5 repeating notes and paired it up with a pattern in the left hand that's 6 repeating notes, and had those cycles keep going on top of each other. So each time each pattern reiterates, it's forming a new interval or new harmony with the other one. Eventually the patterns will realign and come back to where they were in the beginning. So that's the idea overall, and it kind of takes different forms throughout the arrangement. So our 5 notes are and then in the left hand the pattern is the 6 tones are. So in slow motion together, we can hear how these line up with each other. So this is not really minimalism, and this is not really mbira music, obviously, but it's just pulling inspiration from these two musical traditions that I've been really into. The first place that it appears is in the left hand in the very introduction to the piece. So I've kind of picked this as one of the motives in the piece. Which is going to reappear in a lot of different places and in a lot of different ways. So the first time it happens is the very first 6 notes of the song. And then after that, I've added a little bit of a melody to make it fit in the way I wanted it to in the introduction. And then so already just in the first 4 measures of the arrangement, we've heard that pattern reoccur maybe 4 times. And with the right hand at it, it sounds like this. So we have this motive in the very beginning, which is a pattern of 6, and then we have this other 5-note motive or pattern in the right hand that goes kind of in and out of phase, creating new harmonies with that left hand motive. And then here, the left hand sustains and the right hand takes over a 6-note pattern instead, so it kind of moves from the left hand to the right. And then, when the verse starts, we're going to hand off again, so. And the right hand is going to take that pattern and just move up an octave. As the verses go on, we keep hearing that pattern or motive coming back, but also the melody is going to switch from the right hand to the left hand. melody starts here in the left hand. And then it moves to the right hand. And then back to the left. And because the left hand has a melody, we can bring the motive from before back in. And the motive isn't exactly the same every time. I'll change it sometimes to make it fit better with where the phrase is going and move it in the right direction, or to make it fit with the harmonies that I want to hear there, especially since this is not my own composition, it's an arrangement, and I do want it to still hold the nugget of what the original sounds like, even if I choose to make changes. I want that familiarity, and I want to move with respect to the original music. So there's harmonies that I'm trying to keep intact. So sometimes that melodic fragment or motive has to be altered. And that's actually not uncommon. This whole idea of having one short, small melodic fragment that you use over and over again and alter in different ways as the piece goes on is not a new idea. You can go all the way back to Bach and counterpoint and Baroque music to see examples of this, where one small musical idea or small phrase is used over and over again. So in counterpoint, you'll see, like in a fugue or an invention or something like that, one small melodic piece that then is used a million different ways as the song goes on. It'll be stretched to double time, it'll be squeezed into half time, it can be inverted, so you can have the intervals go the opposite way. Instead of it moving up, it'll move down. You can put it in retrograde and actually essentially play it backwards, and it could be starting on different notes. It could go as a sequence, so you could have, if your motive is, or you could so lots of different ways to hear the same thing. And while this may sound like this sort of recycling of musical material is laziness, it's really not. It's a very common compositional technique. And the idea here is it really gives you something familiar, a building block that reappears all the way throughout the composition, so that even though you're hearing the same thing over and over again, it's not repetitive. You put just enough change in it that it's sort of like a unifying thread that runs all the way through a composition and gives your ear something familiar to latch onto, but also some change to keep you interested. And it's sort of a continuous thread and something that unifies a composition. Now I want to show you a spot where that 5-note pattern or motive from the very beginning that used to be in the right hand comes back again in the piece later. Sort of a throwback to the beginning to keep both of those melodic ideas in our minds as part of the composition. So we're hearing it right here. That's our 5 notes. At the very beginning, it was the same set of notes, except for an octave higher and in the right hand instead of in the left. But same thing. So again, we've heard repeated patterns inspired by minimalism and mbira music, and we've heard how those patterns can create new harmonies as they go in and out of sync with each other. And we've heard the voice exchange with the melody, and we've heard how that same motive can keep coming back a bunch of different ways to unify the composition, even if we make changes here and there to make it fit.